everybody. Happy Saturday to you. And if you're on the other side of the planet, happy Sunday to you. All right, give me guys 1 second here to finish getting set up. And I'm gonna do a new system now, and I've got to make sure that you guys are with me. And so I have to come over here and see if you guys are with me. If you are with me, thank you. Just bear with me just for a moment while I verify that everything is good and we're live together. And it's close to everything being good. I've got to add one thing here and select that this is a live stream. Isn't it called Saturday Night Live Stream or something like that? There we are. Then, okay, that should be good. Let me see where you guys are. Do this too. Let me see if you guys are. How do I find it to see if you're live? I think this should be it. And I am. Great. All right, so we are live together. That's perfect. And let me check one other thing real quick. Then I will be totally up and going. That is this. While we're still waiting, it's actually kind of good because we need to wait for a few minutes to make sure everybody is here. So I want to make sure that that's working properly while we're waiting for everything to be here. And why is this not working properly? Let's see if this will work now. I think this is going to be working properly. And yes, it is. And here we are. All right. Unfortunately, whenever I wear a pink shirt, what is this? Kind of a peach shirt. Since I'm on a webcam, it appears to turn my whole look kind of peachy. You know what I mean? Let's see if I can turn down if I turn down my lights here, it still doesn't seem to be still be there. It says where, someone in the channel is saying where, in the chat is saying, where did the chat go? And we've got someone here from Australia, someone here from Germany, from Cleveland, Ohio, and from the UK. Wow, we got a worldwide audience today. That's amazing. And let's see if this is all working properly. And cool. I think we're going to be ready to go. All right. So before I get started and I bring in our first guest, I want to let you know about tomorrow night's guests. All right. So give me one more second here and then I will tell you all about it. And actually, I can tell you all about it right now. All right. Okay, so tomorrow night's guest is a Grammy award-winning pianist. His name is John Novello. Let me shut this door here. If you saw my room, you'd know what I'm doing. I'm pushing the door closed with my foot. He is an award-winning pianist, and his wife died, and he's been able to connect with her on the other side, as well as he has great information about manifestation. So I think you're really going to enjoy that. I did. He was a great guest, and I hope you will enjoy that tomorrow. One more thing is, before we get started here, what I want to say is that if you want to friend me on Facebook, the link's in the description below. You can friend me. You can join our Facebook page. You can join our Discord, although you'll have to connect with me via email or some way to get the link to actually join. And there's some other stuff down there. But I don't want to keep you guys waiting. I want to get the show on the road, so we'll talk about it in between guests. And tonight's guests are, if I can find my notes here, two guests tonight, which is what I've been usually doing on Saturday nights now. One is Andrew Radziewicz, and the other is Ashley Samborski. Both of them have been prior guests, and First, we're going to have Andrew Radziewicz. He is also known as the Psychic Firefighter. I had him a while back because while serving as a U.S. Coast Guard on duty, he saw a UFO and he brought the captain of the boat up and everybody that all came out on the boat and saw the UFO as well, which is an amazing thing. And other stuff we'll talk about. And I think some of it's going to be about his ghost sighting. So let's bring him in first and we'll go from there. So let me pull up my notes here. My participants. There he is. Let's bring him in. See where we're at. Andrew.
All right.
Okay, right. Great to see you again.
You too.
Are you still in Australia?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still down under.
Or what time is it over there? Like 10 in the morning or something?
Yeah, it is 10 after 10. We just had daylight savings a few weeks ago, so I didn't know which way, an hour this way, that way. It's confusing. It's different than you guys.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes I get into trouble with that because I have guests that are worldwide and they have different times when they do
Yep.
daylight savings. And I'm like, okay, well, what time is it over there right now to try to figure it out? So I was trying to introduce you for everybody who didn't catch you the first time, but I think it would be kind of
Yeah.
great if you could, maybe sum up in 10 minutes what happened to you. Was that the beginning of your entire psychic ability, was seeing the UFO? I forgot.
Yeah, I can give you want to just do like a 10-minute summary. That's fine.
That would be great. Yeah.
Cool. So start from that event, from that UFO event, or just anything from
Well,
right there.
yeah. Well, was that event the catalyst or everything that started it off your psychic ability, was seeing the UFO at first, or did you already have ability before that?
So, yeah. So in 1999, I was in the U.S. Coast Guard. I was stationed on the Coast Guard, called a Durable, out of St. Petersburg, Florida. And I had a UFO encounter. I saw two silver objects in the sky that merged together into one and then just vanished. No trace, no trail, no sound, nothing, just gone. And at the time, I was 19. Now, prior to that, I had watched that TV show, Unsolved Mysteries. I had spoken about paranormal things. I had talked about psychic things with my grandmother. I had seen some apparitions, but I did not have these psychic abilities where every day I was actually, acknowledging them and training on them. Nothing like that. So I just thought at 19, I'm just a kid, in the military seeing something, and I'm either at the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. And then a little bit after that, that was in 99, you go to 2001. And I remember watching May of 2001 down at Washington, D.C., the National Press Club. A guy, Dr. Stephen Greer, did a presentation all about UFOs. And supposedly he claimed through meditation that you could proactively communicate with extraterrestrials and the UFOs. And I was really fascinated that he had all these ex-military witnesses. So I'm like, wow, is it more than just me that maybe saw things in the military, and maybe I can meet some of the guys and girls that served and, talk about what I saw. I just wanted to get info. I didn't think that I actually could do this. And in 2011, everything kind of just came to a head. So 2006, I got on the FDNY. I'm a firefighter, third generation. My dad was on for 30 years. My uncle was on for 30 years. I get on in 2006. Around 2011, I finally had the means, the finances to go and meet Dr. Greer, because if you want to go see him and go on an expedition, it's a couple $1,000s. So I didn't exactly have that lying around, being a brand new New York City firefighter making, $25,000 to start. So I saved up. So finally, 2011, I had someone that wanted to go with me to California. We flew out to the desert in Borrego Springs. I go out there, and we go and we sit and we do this meditation called CE5. I meet other people in the group that were ex-military who had claimed that they saw and they interacted with the UFO phenomena. And we saw lights in the sky. We had several experiences that started from October of 2011 until this present moment. And what was interesting was when I learned how to do that with Dr. Greer, learned how to summon UFOs, I remember sitting one night and saying, okay, if my grandmother's around, my grandmother had just passed away. I said, Joan, my grandmother Joan, I said, if you're around, show me a sign. And I was outside and a light appeared, an orb appeared, a craft appeared. So I'm like, is this some sort of connection between these lights, these UFOs, and our loved ones? So I kept doing it, kept going outside, just calling to her, connecting to her, and then speaking with other people. And they're like, yeah, there's something to this. Then I met Robert Hansen, the psychic medium, and that's where I developed my psychic abilities. Now, prior to meeting Robert Hansen, I would say that's where the psychic stuff really accelerated. Because prior to that, I had no one in my ear. I had no one cheering me on saying, look into this. It was kind of just like an internal feeling I got to explore this. But when I physically met Robert Hansen and he said, you have the gift, you can do this, I was like, well, let me try it. Let me try it. I don't know if I can do it, but let me see if what this guy is saying is accurate. And then when I met him, which was right around my grandmother passed, 2011, I met Dr. Greer in October, right after I met Robert Hansen. So I met Greer. I remember coming back and talking to Robert Hansen saying, yeah, I met, Dr. Stephen Greer, and I told him about CE5. And Robert Hansen's just a psychic medium. So when I told him about UFOs and ETs, he said to me, he goes, just be really careful. He goes, yes, there is life in the universe. Absolutely. He goes, but me personally, I don't think that this life is coming and trying to make contact with me personally. He goes, I'm not saying you. He goes, but there's a lot of people out there that think that they're having these types of stories and they're well explained with, blurry photos and dust and all this stuff. So I always kept that in the back of my mind, like, all right, I need to, look into this really deep, and I want to get my stuff analyzed, if I start to film and record this stuff. So when I transitioned from New York to Australia in 2018, I got down here. I really didn't know many people. I got on social media and I met the national director of MUFON, Dr. Roger Stanovic, and he saw my footage on TikTok and said, hey, could I analyze your UFO footage? And he did. And he came back and said, wow, this is the real thing. Now, prior to that, of course, I'm always thinking this is the real thing, of course, I'm thinking it's the real thing. But it's always good to get someone that is a PhD and a scientist looking at this from literally what do you physically have, and then psychologically, what do you have going on, right? How do I know I'm not nuts? In that time too, I had met Dr. Gary Nolan at Stanford University, who listened to my stories, saw my footage, and when I met him, he had said to me, no, you're not crazy. How are you doing what you're doing? I'd like to know more. And yes, there are tons of people out there that are experiencing this stuff. Not everyone is crazy. And there's that 1% that are having these experiences at a very high volume that are able to do this proactively. That's what was different. I heard stories. I've heard stories about people having UFO contact. And I'm not sure if people just had one experience or tons after. I just knew what was going on with me. So I wanted to make sure, going to a doctor, going to a professional to get my footage analyzed, am I nuts? Like, am I hallucinating, imagining this stuff? I don't drink, I don't do drugs, none of that stuff. So I know that's not what's going on. But you tell me, is there something else here? Have I lost the plot? And they've just confirmed with me, no, this is worth exploring. We can't explain everything, but the key is with the experiences that are out there and what we're encountering.
Let me backtrack for 1 second because I'm curious about the contact that you had with your grandmother. Do you think it's possible that your grandmother was sitting right next to you, but in another dimension that you couldn't perceive her, and she put on this light show for you, even maybe created UFOs for you? 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
one.
it's interesting.
There's a theory that I talked to
Yeah,
someone else about that because I always wondered, how can a UFO hundreds of miles away pick up our thought forms? It makes more sense that the being
right.
is sitting right next to us and giving us a show for us.
Yeah, so I know that I think in Russia, I saw a video that somebody had a piece of glass where they pointed it at the sky and they go, hey, do you see that there's a UFO there? And they're looking through this piece of glass and they pull it away and then you don't see anything. Now, I can remember sitting in CE5 groups and over the years saying to people, hey, there's a craft right there, right above us. Look, look. And everyone's like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And then finally, years later, someone brought a night vision camera, like an infrared camera. And I'm like, hey, do you guys see that? No one sees it. And then they could see it. So I think that these objects, most of them are always here. I don't think that they're coming from a great distance anymore. Yeah, maybe through telepathy. And if you're proactively saying, hey, I want to communicate with a race or, civilization from whatever star system, great. The only thing with that, there's no way to prove that because I can't go to that planet and go, hey, I'm here. I got a selfie on Zeta Reticuli. You know what I mean? That's the problem with this. So I would not be surprised one day if we found out that the phenomena, most of it, was human, meaning like us or us in the future, and they're trying to communicate with us, and we're just doing our best to decipher this, whatever this is, right? When no one actually knows everything. I don't think that a lot has to do with religion or belief system, but I just say personally, every time I've called out to a relative, I've gotten a response. Now, some people say they do that with Jesus or an entity or whatever, they're getting something. Or sometimes I've done it with nothing, no C5, no calling to nothing, and just the light comes. So to me, it's a very sacred connection. And if I found out one day for sure, like go to heaven, I die, whatever, and I find out, oh, that was just your loved one or your family trying to talk to you, but they can't speak. So they're showing you lights. Great. I'm okay with that. I have no problem because my experience with all of this has always been a beautiful thing. There's been no poking, prodding, abduction, horrible, horrific things, which I know are definitely true with people that have experienced them. I don't ever doubt that. I just know when we start to go layer by layer of those experiences, not with everyone, I haven't met everyone, but a lot of people, they think that they're interacting with ETs, and then we come to find out it's either an interdimensional being or it's a military type weird abduction thing. We don't even know what's going on. There are genuine contactees that are having real UFO contact, C5 contact, that have also after claimed to have been taken. I don't doubt it at all. So something malicious is going on with this, and I think that's part of this disinfo of what's going on. They want to keep us confused.
You didn't go into it tonight, but what I love about your story is that you saw this on a Coast Guard ship. You were up on deck looking for planes or people sneaking into the country. And not only you saw it, but a whole bunch of crew came out up on deck, including the captain, and all saw it as well, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. People always ask me, do you have any witnesses? Was there anyone there? I said, yeah, there was about 20 of us that came up topside and saw this, and most of them are still working. This is only in 1999, so guys are still in. They're doing their time. I just had a friend contact me that I was on the boat with who just retired, and we had not spoken about any of this because he was still in. So I don't call them and bother them. I don't want any heat on them. I get it. If they know, they know. And he reached out to me. He said, bro, I'm retired. And he goes, I could tell you this. He goes, besides that one location where you were stationed on the Durable, he goes, I went to other locations getting promoted, going around. And he goes, and I have seen craft. I've even seen them when I was a teenager to when I got in the Coast Guard. He goes, and I've seen them at multiple locations, man. This is happening all over. But most guys go in, do their time, and then they get out and they don't want to bother with this. They just want to retire, go into the sunset. However, we are definitely in some sort of awakening or mass awakening where those people are coming back around. Or I don't, like I said, I don't hunt them down. I'm not bothering anyone. You don't want to say anything, fine. I don't ever say names. I don't ever say John Smith was my captain. No, that's not right. You don't do that. I don't like that. If John Smith or blah 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 wants to come forward, that's on them. I'm just saying what I saw from my perspective. People have lives and careers that get mocked, get ruined, get destroyed. People lose relatives, people get divorced, people lose families over this. This is a giant thing for those 20 people. And I remember all of them crystal clear. We're talking, we're looking at this stuff, seeing what we're seeing. It's a giant thing for anyone to come forward and share this, especially after years, right? 20 years later. Why would you bring this up out of nowhere? So once again, I asked my buddy and he goes, because I need to know now. Like, I need to know the truth, man. I need to find out what's going on.
Well, you just said people are getting divorced and whatever other problems that are having to people. Are you saying that you've spoken to former crewmates and they're informing you that their lives have been disturbed by this?
Yeah, so I know there was a whistleblower publicly. I don't know this guy personally, but this public guy came out publicly, and he went to Dr. Greer. He was a Coast Guard guy, claimed he recovered a craft that fell, and they went on a mission and everything. But he gave the names of everyone on the, everyone, the crew, the captains. To me personally, sometimes you're doing classified projects, or you're doing something you don't really know how deep this is, or what you're doing. You think you're recovering a craft, it could be totally something different. You don't really know. So when you open up and share people's names, you could ruin lives and careers. Now, how do I know that? Because yes, people have contacted me and said, hey, man, don't ever mention my name, because so and so that we worked with, they got a divorce over this. Their wife, they went away on a patrol. One person I know, without saying a name, they came back to an empty house and a note on the table just saying, I can't take this anymore. I don't want to hear about this stuff, meaning this UFO stuff, because it gets out. People say, oh, do you know this person? You know that guy? Oh, I remember him. Now, I don't say anyone's name, not me, but people know me. They go, oh, hey, I remember him. I saw with that guy 20 something years ago. Oh my God, he's a good guy. But what happened? And they want to know the extent. So they don't mind. It's on me. They're like, hey, put it on you. Just don't mention my name. But when they come forward now, they have a story too to share. I hope that they share the extent of, this is what can happen. You share this, right? You're being honest, you're open. They're talking about this on mainstream media. And then you have the AAO report or whatever coming out there saying there's nothing to this now, where people just put their careers, people have left jobs, left careers, left pensions behind, coming forward for this. And now they come out and say, oh, there's nothing to this. It's all drones. Come on. I mean, wow, man. So I always say to people, you might want to think first, or think a few times before you quit your day job with this topic. You know what I mean? It's risky.
So at least back home in the US, are you known as like Andrew the UFO guy?
Yeah, so when they gave me that name, the psychic firefighter, like, then if you Google like FDNY and UFO in the fire department actually just means until further ordered. So when you get promoted up the ranks, you bounce around, you go to all different firehouses until you know you want to work. They want you, you want them. In the meantime, you're called a UFO until further ordered. But I'm the UFO guy now, not for that. Now they know, yeah, it's the UFO guy, it's the legend. Now, I had heard stories. There was a guy, they said, I don't know his name, but they called him Captain Kirk. I think his first name was Kirk. And they said back in the day, I wish I met this guy. I didn't know him. I think he worked in Manhattan. And they said that he used to come in with his old school VHS like recorder and say, look, I filmed all these crafts and show the guys, but the guys used to hammer him. This is before like the internet days, and they called him Captain Kirk. You're a nut job, but he didn't care. He just said it. So like, as long as you're good at a fire, guys will love you and they'll just whatever. It don't matter. You could be a nut job. You could be into freaky, weird things. As long as you go and the guys can depend on you and you're not going to get killed or get somebody hurt, you could be whoever you are. They just accept you. You're part of the pack.
I guess I'm sorry, but I just don't remember everything that we did in our podcast. But I have a show every day, so it's hard to remember everything I've done. But I guess we looked at some of your footage. Did we do that? Let me ask you that. I don't know if we did
Yeah, we
or
might have been.
let me ask you this. I've seen a lot of footage from guests, and I can understand why it looks the way it is because the ship's pretty high up in the air. It's at night. There are lights. So, it looks usually like a lighted something. I wish I could get footage from somebody that it looks crystal clear that you can see a nuts and bolts, some kind of vehicle. Because I get confused personally, even myself, on whether are we seeing lights in the air being created by entities, or are we really seeing nuts and bolts crafts made out of some metal? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
let me finish this up and you can answer all of it. Out of any of your footage that you have, can you make out anything that really looks like a ship more than just lights?
So anything that's around or anything that has physical form, someone just asked me this the other day. They said, "Hey man, you have anything 10 feet away?" And I go, let me know someone that does. That'll be the Mona Lisa, because I have seen numerous times since the first time I did this, people standing, holding cameras, night vision like this, recording this thing coming. When it gets close, batteries drain out of everything. This is just what I've experienced. Now, I've had small little lights appear close to me, but the mothership, the big round thing, the seamless thing, for some reason, when the closer they get, when I look at them, they vibrate. It looks like they're almost pulsating, like they're glowing, like whoa, 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 whoa. And it gets close to you, and the closer it gets, it's almost fuzzy. Like you're looking at a TV that you're trying to tune in, and you get a little static on the TV. Like, shh, what is that? The thing almost, it's like it's here. You'll look at it, and then sometimes before you can record or you try to record, gone. It's just like you try to grab your phone and so then people are like, oh, it's playing a game with you, it's messing with you, it's mess. I don't think it's that. I think what's going on, from my understanding, with the same with the physical beings. Where's the physical being in photo, right? It'd be so easy to get a real one, meaning how do we really, really know it is? Ones that have taken form in their natural form. So in their flesh and blood, or whatever their vessel is of true form. My understanding is that they said if they were to be in the natural state like a human would be, right? They look just like us. So they take that form. They said the toxins of planet Earth would kill them within 20, 30 seconds. So when someone sees something, or I have seen them, they come, they look, they'll almost, like fading in and out, or getting vibrating. And then, oh my God, you see their form for very quick, and then gone. They've expressed, I can't hold the vibration here. The vibration of planet Earth would kill me. Just like if I took you to Mars, Andrew, or wherever we're from, you wouldn't be able to walk around like this. You'd need a spacesuit. Okay. Or I know there was a guy in the Navy. There was a guy that claimed to be in the space program. And he said that he claimed he had a scar down his chest. And he claimed that he had to get retrofitted with a breathing device in order to go off planet. Okay, he was a Navy officer. He had some credibility, whatever that means. But suppose he was. I know a guy that he was taken to a Navy officer function. Like a guy I know, he was brought there, took pictures with him and everything. Claimed this guy was the real deal, and he had a scar on his chest. The guy's first name was Richard, and he had the scar, and he said that he went off planet. Told me all sorts of wild things. That when they die, the ETs die, they eat each other, some of their own races, as a ritual. It's wild, man. It's wild. But yeah. So, but here on this planet, I've never seen that. Now, this is not from Andrew. The ones are like, hey, I can't hold the vibration here. So I'm like, all right, that makes sense. Just like with the craft, to actually see them, if one was that close and you saw that, I've only been told that would be some sort of alien reproductive vehicle, meaning a Lockheed Skunk Works type thing. So, they want it to be seen. Whereas the real one, no, it just can't. And yeah, man, I want to know what the video is. Someone that has one that's that close. It's so difficult to get. The closer they get, oh my God, Jeff, 20, 30 people in a CE5 group. I've seen this. All of us filming, phones, everything out. The thing gets close, is starting to land, and we're like, oh my God, I got no juice left. What happened? Get the backup battery. Backup battery drained. So what's doing that? It must be, I heard, whatever the craft is emitting is causing that. So like people have gotten close to a craft or touched them and gotten severely injured at times. So same thing, got to be real careful. People are like, you go on board a craft, have you ever done that? I'm like, when I've tried to or gone close, they move away. So I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to push that. I'm going to just stay back.
Well, hasn't Dr. Gary Nolan been involved with people who have died, especially service members who have died being too close to craft?
Yes. And Dr. Kit Green, I wish I could find the quote wherever it is, but I know I've heard I know him personally anyway, but that's another thing. But I've heard he actually spoke about this. Why I'm saying this is from, me to him. But I was listening to an interview he did about that study, and he determined that the study of the service members that touched these crafts, that the origin of the craft, that the crafts were man-made, all of them, meaning Lockheed, whatever, some sort of reverse engineer type thing. They sent this thing out. service members wouldn't know the difference. They got close to touch this thing or something, and boom, this is what happened. Now, I've heard that from other people too, like, oh, you can't get injured by a UFO craft. They only heal. I don't know. Like, I'm not God, man. I don't have all those answers. But if something was saying, don't touch me, like Chris Bledsoe said, the craft said, don't touch me when we power up, and he did. And I think his dog died and he got rheumatoid arthritis. Well, I'm going to listen to that. I'm not going to push my luck. Now, if I wake up or I'm sleeping and I wake up on a craft and some sort of experience, well, there's nothing I can do, right? There's nothing I could do about that, but that has not happened to me yet, at least from what I can remember. So yes, that study that they did, very real, very scary. But when they really release all that, they don't get to that core. That's a gigantic thing to not share. Oh, the craft were man-made though, so they're not ET. Oh, or we don't know what it was. That'd even be fair. We don't know the origin. It could be anything. But Kid Green said no. The origin of them that he determined from his side of it was that they were man-made.
While we're chatting here, are you open to taking questions from the audience?
Yeah, of course.
All right, so I'll let you guys field me questions. So at some point now, you kind of evolved into doing psychic work or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are you doing psychic readings, or let me ask you this: how does
Yeah.
it work for you? Does it come to you as a download, or do you just see visions?
So yes, I do psychic work, and then there's also like the UFO side of this too. So I would initially, from years ago, I trained to just be a medium. Not anything to do with any UFO stuff, nothing. Just sit, someone I didn't know, no tie to, not even you. No, I don't want any tie to the person, nothing. And I would do it just like this organically, in person, in 3D, no Zoom, none of that. It was old school. Sit with somebody you didn't know. They literally just met you somewhere random, back in the day, or your home if you felt safe. I'd sit, and as I sat, I would see black and white impressions of things that happened in their life. Some people experience very similar things. So the impressions can be the same. The symbology is the same, meaning, for example, if somebody served in the military, oh, I see an American flag come in. Okay. If somebody died in a fire, I'll see a building and the top floor has a flame coming out. This is just the symbology that I see. Everyone's symbology is different. But for me, it's the symbology is always the same. So I'm like, oh, who was the fireman? Who died in the fire? It's not, usually not all over the place. Like I have no idea. It's usually very similar because I've developed this system over the years. At first, I was like, what? What the hell's going on? This is charades, and oh my god, they're showing me they're not speaking to me. Why don't they speak? No, they don't have a voice. They're in an energetic form. They're always around us. Doesn't matter who or what it is. I've sat with everyone from housewives to people that are A-list actors. Everyone is into this. Doesn't matter who they are, as long as you're open to receiving this. I'll see these usually black and white images. It's interesting. It's not in color. That's interesting. It's black and white, right? Like old school, man. If it's a color, I'll have to see something written out, like in color, meaning blue, the little word blue. So I'm like, what's blue? Who's blue? But it's usually in black and white, the imagery. Really interesting. So I don't know if we die and everything's in black and white, maybe. I don't know, but it's cool. See these black and white images. It's lightning fast. So it's one image. I say, hey, I see a car going down the block. Bang. All right, there's a tree. Boom. Someone dejected out of the car real fast. Bah, 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 bah. And hopefully the person knows what I'm interpreting to them and they're not lying to me. So I did this for many years. Then I started doing it at CE5 groups because people found out. So like, hey, could you read me after the CE5? Yeah. And then someone's like, hey, are you picking up anything during the CE5? And I'm like, I don't want to like share anything sensitive with 30 people I don't, you know what I mean? Like, hey, someone's aunt just died. You know what I mean? This is not for everyone's business. That's why people like, do you do public readings and in front of millions of people? I'm like, I don't mind as long as people are going to be honest. You know what I mean? Like maybe you did something you're not too happy about, which I'll get into. You got to be open. You can't lie because people have lied publicly and that can ruin the image and personality of someone trying to do honest work. I've learned this over the years. So I'm doing this in CE5 groups, right? Sharing stuff and doing it after, then during, oh, I'm getting these downloads. So I'm like, maybe it's all connected. And like I said, I'm getting messages from my grandmother. I'm seeing things around people. I'm like, oh my God, everyone I've ever met is either okay, all psychic stuff or all UFO stuff, no merging of one. Like, no, 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 that's taboo. You don't mix them. But I'm like, I can't like get away from it. You know what I mean? I can do either, but it's all for me coming out together when I'm with people if they want. Some people are like, I don't want to know about the UFOs. I don't care. I just want to see you in person. Other people are like, hey man, can we do this outside? I want to see some lights tonight. I'm like, as long as you're open to it. If you're coming saying this is nonsense, it's not going to happen, you're a fraud, don't even bother coming to me. Go somewhere else then, because you, once again, when you put that energy out, you're going to get that back in return. It's one of the basic laws of the universe. It's real easy with this stuff. And I've always kept like a childlike, zen-like green mind when I've done this work. And that's what I've gotten in return. It's been a beautiful experience with people, but getting to people not being honest. I was sharing once, okay, in front of about 20 people. There was a guy there with a girlfriend. I guess his girlfriend was there. And I said, I have a soul coming through, and they're expressing that they were responsible for their crossing. And I'm seeing a rope. Now, I think you know where this is going, right? So, and I'm saying this to a young man, and he goes, no. And I said, oh, I'm getting the name M.A. or Mark or no, 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 no. And now everyone in the room is looking at me like, oh, all right, he's finally off, or he's not getting it right. And I'm like, oh my God. And luckily, Robert Hansen was there because we were training, and he was like, keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And I'm like, and I just kept saying what I was saying. And then after, I'm like, damn, man, I was off. And the guy, I go outside in the parking lot. The guy comes up to me. He goes, hey, man. He goes, listen, he goes, I really like what you do. He goes, but I brought this girl here and we were on our first date, and I didn't want her to know that my cousin took his own life. I go, bro, I go, when I first start talking, I say, if you don't want me to talk about something, you don't want to get read, say pass. I said, because now the 30 people that are in this room think that I'm full of it and I'm just making things up. I said, I'm just telling you what I see. I don't know how. It's channeling, man. So yeah, people, it's hopefully the people you read are being honest and telling you, yeah, this really happened. How do you know? How can you validate? How can you validate what I experience in a reading after? I don't know these people. I don't follow them. I'm not friends with them. I have no clue. I prefer not to know them at all, but I have no idea. So most of the people, 99% of the people, amazing, great, lovely. You always get that 1% though. Someone every once in a while will come and sit down. No, 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 no. That means nothing. I've gone to the point now. If that happens in the first 5 minutes, I go, you need to book a session with someone else. I'm not your guy. I can't help you. Whoa, what do you mean? I go, because what I'm saying doesn't make any sense. So it's not resonating. It's all good. I don't want to waste an hour. Now, I'm not saying I know you're lying, but in my head, I'm like, they're just not ready. Maybe they're not ready to receive what I have to say. I won't do that. Whereas years ago, starting out, oh my God, I was winging it. I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'm off. I don't know. But that's why it's so important to have a guide or a mentor in life. With if you're doing something and someone is doing what you want to do and you could pick their brain, oh my God, that's a blessing, Jeff.
That's amazing that you have so much certainty. Um, what is the value of somebody getting a reading? I mean, generally, what is it? Does it just give them their own certainty that their loved one is still alive on the other side? Is that what they're
So
seeking?
yeah, so sometimes it just depends on the person and the situation and what they've gone through. Sometimes it's just validation of events or things that happen to know, okay, these are things that happened in my life. Like I said, the symbology is very similar. I see people, very similar symbology coming through. So does this make sense to the person? Great. Okay. So after grandma, I'll just say grandma Mary died, Susie comes to me and goes, I'm grieving. My grandmother's not here. Okay. Well, your grandmother's expressing to me they were twins that passed together, in March. Oh my God. My grandmother was gone already for a year. How did she know that? Well, she's still here in spirit. Oh my God. I think for me and other people I met, they're like, wow, I know now I'm moving on in my life that my grandmother or my mom or my dad, they're here seeing these things because this psychic could not know that. I don't know this guy, we're not friends. How does he know these specific events and times and moments and dates and numbers that are meaningful? There's no way. I used to joke and say, on my days off, I hang outside of funeral homes and I read the obituaries. but I can't say that anymore because I was a mortician for a couple of years and I actually worked in a funeral home, you know? So no, I don't do that. I do it for, I love what I do. I do it for the love of it. And I remember that first time I ever got read, and I said, no priest, no therapist, nobody, no relative, nobody could have just done what was just done to me in the last hour. And since I saw you, Jeff, this is incredible. Every once in a while, like I said, I get people that I don't know anything about. Someone books a session, they just put a first name. I got to see you in person, got to come to your home. All right, come. I'm one of the few psychics that'll do in-person readings because everyone's so scared of COVID and whatever. So yeah, come on over. You know, it's all good. I sit, I read this person, and after they go, so did your wife tell you that I was coming? I go, no, I don't go to my wife. Hey, these are my clients this week. No, I don't say anything. I don't know who you are. I don't have friends here. I don't know many people in Australia. She's like, yeah, I'm friends with your wife. I'm like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And she goes, I got to say to you, she goes, my best friend who came through in the reading, she goes, she was murdered in front of her children. And I came through in the reading, everything. And she goes, I went to therapy for the last year, every week. She goes, and this last hour with you blew away what I just experienced in last year trying to get answers. She goes, I don't know how you did what you did or you saw what you saw, but she wrote a review and everything. That's why I'm sharing this. I don't break people's privacy ever. She wrote, something about this. It was beautiful. And that's the side of it where, wow, it just, I can't put into words whatever she experienced. Great. It's in writing. It's not me saying it, but I didn't know this person prior. And the details of the crime scene and things that happen that were not released publicly that I relayed to her. She goes, Andrew, they didn't release this info publicly, because it was an investigation, all these things going on. So you saw and knew that. How did you do that? I said, I don't know anything. Like I said, I don't have any special intel. I'm just seeing imagery. And if it makes sense to you, great. This is what's going on. And she's like, it's incredible. So yeah, that makes it worth everything, like I said, I can't even put into words how great that feels. It's a spiritual thing, you know what I mean? It makes me feel, wow, there's this connectedness between all of us. It doesn't matter in New York or in Australia or in Switzerland or Sweden or wherever I've traveled, Germany, doing this. I've done this all over the world now. It's beautiful.
I've had another guest on recently, and she became psychic at one point in her life, and she was doing it, but then she just stopped doing it. She just felt like, I can't put words in her mouth, but the way I interpret it is that she just didn't feel comfortable knowing other people's business. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, so I've done a very good job from years ago, just being a firefighter and leaving whatever goes on at work. Because if you don't, wow, you take that stuff home and the trauma you're exposed to, right? And the death, trying to help people, trying to save people, drug overdoses. And oh my God, picking needles out of people's arms, trying to revive them with families screaming at you, save them, save them, save them, cursing at you, throwing things, not at you, but they're just frustrated. But that's a lot to deal with and a lot to take on. So it is so important on a daily routine, once again, one day at a time, how you take care of yourself. What I say to people out there is, if you're going to get a reading from any psychic, look at who they are, what they have. If you don't want that, don't even go get a reading, because when you open yourself up energetically, when you go into that space with them, especially if someone does healing, whatever that means, healing, right? They claim they can heal you. I've met people that have left healing sessions in worse condition than when they went in. And that is because of the condition of the psychic or whoever the medium that you're dealing with and their attachments. You got to be, I won't do that with anybody. You got to be so solid and grounded to do that healing stuff. But same with psychic work. The stuff that I do daily, every day, waking up early, meditating, going to the gym, like I said, not drinking alcohol, all those to me, those are the basics now. But if I meet a psychic that is doing that to deal with whatever, whoa, you'll burn out. And even if you don't drink or whatever, and you just don't really look after yourself, it could be taxing. So at the beginning of every day, right, I do my, what I call ritual, and do my cup of coffee and do everything. And then at the end of the day, I power down. Same thing. You don't want to go to bed with that stuff on your mind. And working in a funeral home too, doing 10 funerals a day, That's not normal for anybody to be around that much death. So I looked at over the years in the funeral home, the people that were around for a long time, how did they take care of themselves? And more importantly, how could you better take care of yourself to have a better life over that 30 years? How are you really looking after yourself? Are you really doing that? Or are you just saying that? So when I will associate myself with people, I have a smaller crew of people from doing this now for 14 years. I have less friends than ever. However, the ones I have right now are stronger and tighter than ever, Jeff. I've met hundreds, thousands of people doing this, but I have less people, but we all have an understanding, you know what I mean, about what we're doing and how serious this is. This is for anyone to learn. Anyone can learn how to do this. I could train anyone in this. As long as you're open to this and you say, hey, I'm open to doing this, show me what you're doing, sticking with it and doing with this. If you don't feel that calling, right, and you don't have, once again, you don't have a mentor or someone around you to go, hey, just ride the wave out. Like what Robert said to me, Andrew, keep going. If I didn't have him saying to me, keep reading, I might have just stopped and said, man, I don't have it. There's something wrong with me. And later on in my career doing this, I had moments like that from meeting people where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore, because I had a loved one, or I had loved ones over the years that had had health things going on, literally diseases, all sorts of things. And I'd say to them, hey, I see this in you, go to the doctor. And some of them didn't. And some of them almost died. And that I felt responsibility for that. However, thank God I had a mentor to go to and say, hey, what do I do? How do I deal with this? And he told me this is part of the work and you just keep going. You know, once again, that's up to them. They have free will. So I was like, okay, you know, but you feel this responsibility with doing this work, that you want to fix everyone, that you want to heal them. And I get exactly what that person was going through. I still feel that at times. It's just all I can do is talk about that with someone else that is going through and doing the work I'm doing. Because when you identify, to me, that's like that the best healing in the world is from people that are going through it or have been through it. We can go, okay, we're not alone. Right at the very end of it, and maybe there's no answer or cure, but it's good to know you're not alone, because I feel that we were put here on planet Earth, at least right now in this timeline, Jeff, to be here with each other and for each other.
One time I was laying in bed, just before I was about to get up, and I was kind of relaxing. I don't know if I was really meditating, but just kind of laying there and with my eyes closed. And, sometimes just visual things come to you, like weird visuals or whatever. And I kind of thought to myself, I wonder if this is what psychics do, like just visual things come to you. And so I kind of experimented one time with this husband and wife, and I just told them about it, and I just kind of quickly did it. And I said, okay, I'm seeing a teddy bear. And the funny thing was, they said, our nickname for you is Teddy Bear.
Wow.
But I don't know, but I still don't feel certain about what I did. But is that kind of what you're doing, or a version of what you could be doing?
Yeah, so that's how I put a lot of this together. Dr. Greer, when I met him in 2011, he would say, okay, you're starting to meditate, do it before you go to bed and do it right when you wake up, when you're in that hypnagogic kind of groggy state. That state of mind is the state of mind that the ETs are in, that the spirits are in. It's kind of like a dial on a radio. Right now, you and I and everyone listening, we're at 96 FM on the dial. The souls, the spirits, the UFOs, the ascended masters, and all that great stuff, and whatever else is out there at 98 FM. We meditate before bed or right when we wake up. We move from 96 to 97. The ETs, UFOs, and all that, they become aware of that. They drop down. Now we're all at 97 FM in that hypnagogic state for an hour or 10 minutes or 20 minutes communicating. Then when we're done, we all return. We go back to 96. They go back to 98. That's the best way to understand it. When I used to lie down at night, I will almost doze off, but I'm aware, like, oh, I'm alert, but I'm relaxed. I'm completely relaxed. And I started to have almost out of body experiences. So I connected with a group in New York City called the Monroe Institute. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
They had a local chapter right near Times Square at a lady's apartment. This is amazing. I love these stories. 2015, I found the Monroe Institute. Google them. Where are they? I got to find them. Oh, they're in Virginia. I can't go to Virginia. Oh, they have a satellite group, whatever that is. Let me go. Lady's like, come to my house. I go to this lady's apartment. Oh my God, beautiful, overlooking Times Square. 10 people I've never met. We sat, we meditated, we out of body traveled. We had the most incredible experiences in this lady's apartment overlooking Times Square. I mean, unbelievable. Just us there, just energetically connecting. No, it did not cost me a penny, but you don't ever, I hate when people are like, oh, it costs money. Oh, it must be a scam. No, no, it's not always like that. Some people actually just need a little money to live and they can't do everything for nothing. Some people have the luxury of their time off. Like this lady was a doctor, her time off, she was incredible. She just did this out of the goodness of her heart. And she should have been charging something, but you never come empty handed. Don't be a cheapo. So you show up with a gift or money or whatever, because you have to exchange something here. You can't just give away. There's no free lunches out here with this stuff. And we did that, and we were energetically exchanging things too in that room. And we started to travel. This is the groundwork, right? This is the beginning stages. I was doing this, connecting with this higher realm, what they would call them the Monroans, to these non-corporal entities. And I remember one time, same thing. I'm seeing an image, right? I'm seeing this, I started to see these images. I'm getting in that state. And I remember saying to a lady once, I'm like, I see this scratching. I see scratching in the wall. And I'm thinking, should I even share this? Sounds nuts. Like they're gonna think I'm talking about some horror movie, Freddy Krueger. That's what I'm thinking. Once again, the subconscious mind is trying to womb, no, whatever. It's nonsense. I'm like, is it rational? Is it not? And I remember, like Robert Hansen would say, just share it. When you're meditating, you're in a group, just share it. You never know. So I go, I'm sharing this scratching in the wall, and there's something about a monkey. And this lady looks at me and she goes, my son took his own life. And I used to call him my little monkey. And we had a little stuffed animal, like a pet monkey for him. And one morning I woke up and I went to his room and he had scratched into the wall, scratched, no more pain. She goes, I kicked the door in and he was gone. He was deceased already. So I was like, oh my, like, you never know what you're getting. So long as the people are open to receiving that, and hopefully they're going to be right. They were honest with you. That's great, because when you're open and you're trusting and you're sharing and you don't know people and you say something, there could be someone in that group that is exactly what you're saying, but they don't want to open up and they don't really want to do the work. So whenever I'm doing what you did with your friends, or I'm doing C5, or I'm doing readings, or especially if I'm training someone how to become psychic and tap into this and develop this, I only do it one-on-one, because I don't want to deal with the other energies that are maybe only half there. You know what I mean? They don't really know. They're not really certain. Go to some other workshop where there's 100 people. You could pay $30. You're not going to get anything out of it, though. I'd rather train one-on-one and do it seriously and get something out of it for the people that really want this. Or you're just sitting with friends, being genuine. Those are the best experiences I've had, Jeff. Just sitting with friends or sitting with random people and just letting it flow, because there's no pressure then. You're just like, hey, let me see what's coming. When you could have that, whatever that felt like, to me, that sounds like a childlike, organic, Zen mind, beginner-like state that I've read about. That's where those beautiful things come out of. And that's where beautiful creation comes out of too.
A couple quick questions. One was
Yeah.
people are wanting to know where you're from, Boston or New York. And two, let
New
me
York, yep.
throw this out there. Andrew, did you travel together when you went out of body with these 10 people?
Yeah. So, so everyone knows, just lay it out there. I was born in Virginia Beach, which is another state in America. Okay, not far from New York, about 8-hour drive. My family was living there at the time. My dad was a cop in Washington, D.C. My dad got on the New York City Fire Department right after. We moved back to New York, basically from New York, though. I was born in Virginia, but lived in New York almost forever. Did live in California, stationed in St. Petersburg, Florida, and California in the Coast Guard. And then now I'm currently in Melbourne, Australia. Life just happens, though, but from New York. And did I travel with these people? Were we at the same reality? I know what people are getting at. So number one, there were no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. So I know in ayahuasca trips, people talk about, we all saw the same thing. Now, I have no way of I did the same thing. Where I was when we went out of body, okay, yes, I saw some of the same people there. So I would think we were in the same place. Now, when people do ayahuasca or they're having out of bodies, are they going somewhere and they actually seeing the same crew that they went out of body with before they left? If you are, cool. That's great. Are you just seeing the same imagery though? So there's something similar to the protocol we used. So we used a certain protocol. They call it the Gateway Voyage process. If people look it up, it's like for beginners, very basic. I don't recommend it for anyone that's never done any meditation. It is really intense. This is for, once again, I was doing meditation. I was into this stuff for about 4 or 5 years already. Pretty intense, doing it all the time. And then I met this group. If I had done this from day one, let me just, I meet people that say to me, hey, I want to jump through a portal. I'm like, have you even meditated? Like, easy, man. Yeah, okay. I'm sure you do. I'm like, right, just like you want the mothership to land 2 feet away. I'm like, if I saw that thing, I probably would wet my pants. Okay, like, relax, man. You don't know until that happens what's going to happen, and some angelic being or something gets off. Like, come on, let's be real here, at least. Come on. So, yeah, when that happens, we were there. We all saw similar things, but I think because of the protocol and the way we were engaging, Bob Monroe walks you through this. So if you're just doing something and you're with people, you're in a C5 group, I know that it can kind of be all over the place. Some people can see a physical craft. Some people can see different things. When you're using the same exact protocol with the Monroe Institute, and it's meaning a controlled environment, not outside. Outside, you could go anywhere. You're not contained, man. So just, once again, are you on a Native American burial ground? You got to look into all these things. If you are opening yourself up to anything, I want to know anything and everything about the space I'm in and the people I'm with the best I can. Why? Because there are stories about people coming home from these ayahuasca retreats and these spiritual retreats, and they're possessed. And I don't know if they're true, but I don't want them to be true for anyone that I know. So do your homework, check out who you're going with. You know what I mean? And don't take any drugs, man. It's always better to organically experience any of this, because then you have the natural resources and tools to access them without getting wasted or being hung over the next day. And to me, I'm 43. I'm not 23. Speaking to you like a 43-year-old. I'd much rather wake up in the morning with no hangover and no buzz and no nothing. 23, you know what I mean? If you're a little more crazy, you want to do whatever, I get it. But 43, I'm speaking from experience. It's much easier to just wake up and, oh, I'm okay. I could go about my life. I could show up for work. I'm okay. I'm in a good condition. And you see these things with the Monroe Group. What's really good too is we took a long time after processing and talking about everything we just went through. It wasn't just like, I don't like it when people go to psychics or when they go for regressions. They go through these experiences. They're in and they're out in an hour or 2 hours. No, 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 no. No. And then they never go back to the person. If you are opening yourself up, if you're developing, you're training, if you're doing healing work, you're doing any of that stuff in an hour, you need a follow-up. That's not enough. No, no, no. People don't go to a therapist for trauma once. You shouldn't, at least. Same with these healers. I don't think once you could be healed from anything from 20 years of trauma. It doesn't equate. If you walk 1,000 miles into the forest, it's going to take you 1,000 to walk out. Okay. There's no miracle cure here. You got to do the work. But the key thing that I keep talking about is having the right people around you. Okay. Whoever your 5 closest friends are, probably going to influence you a lot. Okay. Same thing with this stuff. Who's around you in that immediate vicinity? Who are you holding hands with in that CE5 circle or this out of body circle? Because yeah, you're going to go somewhere, you're going to see things, you're going to come back and you're going to hear something very similar. At least we did. We were like, wow, we went to an ultra type dimension. It was like this, but there were 2 suns. The beach was, black. It was black sand beach, there were blue beings there. What were they saying to you? That's where it gets interesting, because if what the beings are saying to you is true, what you do is come out of whatever you came out of. I would suggest this. Write it down. Don't tell anyone at first. Just write down what happened. Then go around the group and say, all right, what did everyone experience? Because if you come out and go, hey, I saw these blue beings and this happened, people might lie just to fit in because they feel awkward. But when you write down, once again, that's it. That's it. That's what I wrote down. Now see, hey, if you're writing it down and you're all going through the same thing, okay, this is worth further exploring. And the Monroe Institute, yeah, I don't know about other groups out there. They've been doing this from the 60s. They know what they're doing. When I do anything like this, I go with people that have 20, 30, and even 50, 60 years now experience. because you want people that are there for anything to come up or happen. You want the right people around you to help process that.
Andrew, brother, I'm going to have to run. I've got my next guest, but before I go, I want to let people know that I put in the description here, I put a link to your website. Is there anything else or any other contact information you want to give out?
I'm on every social media platform, usually as Andrew Radziewicz or the Psychic Firefighter or Psychic Firefighter, every platform. But yeah, the easiest way, the psychicfirefighter.com. Feel free to reach out. And yeah, thank you so much again for having me on, and to all your guests and everyone in the chat. Have an amazing week and stay safe.
It's great seeing you again. It was a lot of fun. We'll see you later, brother.
As always,
All right, take
take
care.
care.
All right, that was Andrew. And that was I mean, if you haven't heard it, you should go back, and I should probably put a link in here in the description to hear his whole account of him being on the ship. It was really cool. Our next guest is Ashley Samborski, and before I bring him on, I want to let you guys know that again, that my video out tomorrow is with Grammy Award-winning pianist, jazz pianist John Novello. After his wife died, he got an ability to communicate with her on the other side. We also talk about manifestation. We talk about him hanging out with Donna Summer. And I think it's a great podcast. I think you guys will really like it. I hope you check it out tomorrow. In the description below, by the way, there's a link to our Facebook page. There's a link to my personal Facebook profile. As you will see, my last name is Reynolds. Mara is my beloved wife. And the podcast is named after both of us. Also, there is a link to our website, our other YouTube channels, and even our Discord. And if you do join our Discord, which is totally free, you will have to email me personally or contact me to get the link to actually join, because there were people going in there causing trouble, and I used to make it public, and I don't anymore. All right, so let's bring in our next guest. He is Ashley Samborski. He was a guest a couple years ago, I'm assuming, so a lot of you probably don't know him. He attempted to end his life back in 2014, and during so, he had an encounter with Archangel Michael. He's also been visited by the soul of Jesus, and he has other things going on. So we'll see what's up with Ashley. All right, it may take him a second. Ashley, are you there?
Hi, Jeff.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi,
and
Jeff.
There you are. All right, Ashley, welcome back. Great to see you again, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
How long ago did we do that podcast together? Was it like 2 or 3 years?
You know, ever since I connected with you again, I've been trying to think, and I do believe it was a couple of years ago for sure. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute.
You don't remember the number, do you?
I don't. I would guess 2021, 2022.
Well, no, I mean, I number every podcast like, I don't know, 1,111 was yesterday's. I don't know, somewhere around there. Okay. So yours was probably, I don't know, 300 or 400, 500, something like that. Maybe someone can look it up and tell me in the chat. But it's been a long time, and so I think it'd be kind of good, since probably the majority of the people don't know who you are. Maybe you can give us like a shortened version, a recap of what happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a normal guy for 34 years of my life, you know, just working as a steel shop as a welder fabricator. And I, you know, had a difficult upbringing. And when I lost my mom to cancer, I had this sudden awakening. And I just looked at my life and who I become, and I realized that I basically spent the last 15 years of my life just getting blackout drunk and, you know, masking all the pain that I was carrying around from childhood. And when my mom passed away, I just looked within, and the more I saw, the more I just felt like it was impossible to heal. I had a, you know, jet wick temper from my upbringing of just, you know, being bullied and things I went through in the home. And for 13 months after I lost my mom, nothing really changed. It actually, well, it did change. It actually got worse, because not only was I dealing with the grief, but I was discovering all these things about myself that I had to heal. And it got to a point where I just thought I was going to be feeling this pain in my heart for the rest of my life. And one day I was sitting in my garage and I just asked myself, I'm like, can I really do this for another 40 years or 20 years or whatever? And I just said, there's no way I can continue doing this. And that's when I heard a voice in my head say, all you have to do is go start your car, come sit back down, and it'll all be over. And for the first time in my life, well, not the first time in my life, but for the first time since I lost my mom 13 months prior, I actually felt empowered about something, because everywhere I looked in my life, I felt trapped. You know, when my mom was diagnosed with cancer, I was with someone for, you know, married and together for 14 years. And even though I had no desire to have a child of my own, I was always kind of brought up that that is something that you do, right? And so I said to my wife, you know, at the time, I'm like, well, if we're ever gonna have a child, let's just do it now so my mom could be around. And she ended up passing away 3 months before my son was born. And just within that 3 months, you know, I fell into such a deep state of depression, and the added pressure of becoming a father. I just felt like, how was I supposed to raise this son to be happy and enjoy life when all I really wanted to do was, you know, leave this place and be with my mom? And you know, when I heard that voice, I went into a deliberation kind of for 45 minutes, kind of as if I was going to court to sentence, you know, to see if I could sentence myself to death. And I basically convinced myself that, you know, I never really liked it here. And I figured if I left, that my wife would meet someone that was more stable and capable of raising my son than I was. So I actually saw it as myself doing my son a favor. And after about 45 minutes of contemplating whether I should do it or not, I decided I was going to. And so I picked up my keys. And just as I was getting up to go start my car in my garage, uh, well, the first thing that happened was the word no was shouted at me. Now I was sitting in my detached garage, and you know, the doors shut and the doors locked on the side. And this word that was shouted at me is as real as me and you talking, scared me. And by the time I turned my head to the left, you know, I had time to ask myself two questions. And that was, you know, how did this person get in my garage, and how did they hear my thoughts? And just as I got to where these words came from, I seen this clear oval and about 5 or 6 feet in the air. And the next thing I knew, just this energy of Archangel Michael filled my entire being. And I had no idea how I knew it was him. I just knew it was him. And then the next thing I knew, more words were spoken to me. And after a short amount of time, I just kind of sat back down in my chair. Like, I was so confused, because the words that were coming from what I thought was like the face of Archangel Michael, because his energy was so powerful. The words that were being spoken were actually my dad's voice. And I had lost my mom a year prior. My dad was still alive. And it sounded as if the words were being spoken from underneath water. They were like wavy. And so I was really confused, because I thought I was looking at Archangel Michael, but I'm hearing my dad's voice. And what I would later discover, the more I got into spirituality, was that Archangel Michael opened up a portal for my dad's higher self to come through and basically stop me from ending my life. And, you know, the last 10 years, I've been on a pretty intense healing journey, working with shamans, Reiki healers, plant medicine, and just basically going within and doing the work. And I quit my job after 22 years in the steel industry, because at the beginning, well, the middle of 2019, ended up getting a divorce, but we lived together till the beginning of 2020. So after that, I couldn't do my job anymore. It was killing my soul. And so I was like, you know what? I'd been working on my book for a year at the time. And I said to myself, I'm just going to quit my job and write my book full time. And on April 8th, it just came out on Amazon, Finding Me by Ashley Samborski. So even though I didn't know what I was doing, I kind of just went out on a whim. I'm glad I did it, and now here we are.
Well, congratulations on your new book.
Oh, thank you
You
very
don't
much.
have to tell us everything, but can you tell us about, or tell us what was said to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do, in my book, I go over pretty much everything that went through my head in those 45 minutes. And so after the original no was shouted at me, and I'm looking at this clear oval in the sky, the next thing to come out was, no, you can do this. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but you can do it. And I was just dumbfounded. And actually, I remember that night was just as weird as that experience, because later on, like when I went to bed that night around 11:30, I was pretty upset. It was a Sunday, and I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to my steel fab job. And within that 45-minute time period where I was justifying the death sentence, I pretty much told myself that I no longer had the energy to continue living, and that healing wasn't possible. And so when I went to bed that night, my wife was laying beside me. She was already sleeping, and I just had tears coming down my eyes from the thought of having to continue living. And so I put my hand up to the sky, and I just said to God, if I'm going to continue being here, I need to know what this is all about. And I passed out around 11:30 at night, and around 1:30 in the morning, I'm sleeping, and I hear, we think you should open up your eyes. And I open up my eyes, and the next thing you know, there's an extraterrestrial being standing 1 foot away from my face, staring at me. And my initial reaction was I was so scared that I just took a huge gasp in. I went, and when I did that, my soul left my body, and I started going into the corner of the room, and I could see my body laying on the bed next to my wife. And there was this tall, I've seen all kinds of ETs in books, and I've never seen anything like this. Like, it was tall, skinny, and the closest way to describe it would be, it looked like a tall gray, except it was light brown. And this is very strange, but the space was like square. And eventually, when I was floating in the back corner of my room, I got scared, and I started to get sucked back into my body. And as I was going by this being, I could hear him say to me, we are here to carve our own path. And I got back into my body, and I just kind of passed out, went to work the next day, and acted like nothing had happened.
Why do you think the ET came to your side?
Well, because I've had the pleasure of working with so many shamans, I shared my story with 6 different individuals that are very psychically in tune. And they all said that it was a space brother from Andromeda that I had a past life with that was coming to me, because even though consciously I wasn't thinking about ending my life, I think subconsciously I probably would have attempted again in the next couple days. And so I just really needed to receive a message that, that was not the route to go. And since then, a lot has happened since we last talked. And, I started to go downhill in 2020. My marriage came to an end when my wife went out and was unfaithful. And, we had a child together, and I had to end up moving in with my dad. We sold our beautiful 3-story house. And, at the age of 40, it really felt as if I was going backwards. And I soon realized, when my child support payments kicked in, that the job that I had been working at for 22 years that was once capable of sustaining my family was now obsolete. I was living at home with my dad, rent free, and after paying child support and just surviving, I had $200 left to my name. So all this added pressure, and just, I just started feeling kind of betrayed by God. And I really went downhill in 2020, 2021. And it eventually led to the point where my guides and angels were kind of getting concerned that I was kind of crossing over to the other side, because I was just carrying so much anger within me, that they actually allowed a fallen angel to attach to my aura. And they showed me, this is the end result of the path that you're going on if you don't open up your heart and heal. And basically, you know, for 18 hours, I had this fallen angel attached to me, and I sat in a chair from 5:30 in the evening till 6:30 in the morning, or vice versa. It might have been 6:30 in the evening till 5:30 in the morning. But I sat there just basically with every muscle in my body flexed, and just these horrific images coming into my mind. And I feel like I got to experience what hell felt like from that experience. And after 18 hours, it was so intense that I just cried out to Jesus, and I said, you know, I can't take this anymore. And I was literally hanging over the side of my chair. And I just felt this large energy come swooshing in, and it was Jesus, and he cleared this energy. And as soon as that happened, I literally had to crawl on my hands and knees up to my bedroom, you know, because I was just so exhausted. But anytime, you know, I get worked up in this life, I just remind myself of what that felt like, and, you know, just why it's so important to really open up our heart and heal the wounds we have from our childhood.
Are you open to taking questions from the audience?
1,000,000%.
All right. Well, here's one. And people, if you want to ask, go ahead, and it's easier if you type them in all caps. I think we can spot them easier. But someone wanted you to say, what do you mean by carve your own path? Can you dig a little deeper on that for us?
Well, yeah, that was the ET's explanation of why we were here, is to carve your own path. And, you know, we do have free will. So basically, you know, he's basically saying, you know, like, with all the words, but he's basically saying, you know, follow your joy, follow your bliss. Like, we're here to create the life we want to experience, kind of thing, right? So he was just reminding me to basically, you know, do what makes you happy, kind of thing.
All right. I think there was one more real quick before. There was another one that kind of popped by me. I don't know. It's like I said, I'm glad I'm going to ask people to start putting them in caps. It'll maybe kind of help me to kind of scroll up and down real quick to get to them.
Absolutely.
Oh, somehow our mouths are attached. Anyways, while I'm waiting for a question, I want to let everybody know that Ashley makes these things. Yeah, he's the one that made it for us. Ashley makes these. Would you call them trees of life?
They're called the Miracle Tree Collection.
Miracle Tree. And if you ever watch my video, Ashley, I make a video of my room, and I show everything in my room. And I have my desk here, and I have like shelving here. So Ashley was so kind and generous to send me one of his miracle trees for free, and I have it right here on my shelf right above us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
That's the tree of love.
Yeah. And so you used to make them? Are you still making them?
You know what? For a long time, it was kind of just a hobby. I like to make them, and then I'd take them out to a lake or an ocean and get nice scenery in the background, take pictures. And, you know, reflecting back now, you know, what I did is I made a bunch of blank sculptures where it's just the steel, and I would wait for, you know, to make them one at a time for an individual client. And that kind of, you know, took a lot of time. So I got to a point recently where I was like, okay, either I'm just going to chuck out all my stuff, or I'm just going to make them all now. And so I went ahead and I made a large batch. And because of that, I'm going to drop the price. You know, they were selling for $800 Canadian. Now it's going to be $357 Canadian. That includes like a $20 custom wood wine box that it comes in, a 2-inch rose quartz, and the shipping.
Yeah, it did come with a very nice wood box. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have this is the tree of Michael, one of the few that I've made. It's got some quartz crystal on the bottom with some tiger's eye and crushed quartz powder throughout the resin, throughout the tree, and it comes with a 2-inch quartz heart like you got there too.
All right, here's our first question. How do you just live among society, mundane, after an experience like that?
Well, you know, it's interesting. On that day in the July 13th, 2014, I experienced those two things on the Sunday. One was at 1:30 in the afternoon, one was at night. And I went to work the next day. My alarm went off at 5:30. And as soon as I went into work, this guy I'd been working with for a long time was like, "How was your weekend, Ash?" And I was just like, "Oh, it was good, totally deflected it. How was yours?" For 9 months, I didn't tell anyone. I actually accidentally told my wife at the time, 9 months later, that she was lucky that I was still around because Archangel Michael saved my life when we were having a bit of an argument. And, pretty much for the last 10 years, I've kind of spent it in hermit mode, just, being by myself and doing what I can alone. And, it's not easy. I had, on October 20th, 2020, when I was going through all that stuff with and had the fallen angel attached to me and everything, I was having a really hard time. And I said to Jesus one day, I said, Jesus, I'm having a really hard time opening up my heart in this incarnation. If you could help me out with that, maybe next time. Because I was listening to some iPod things, and the guy was talking about how every time you have a shower, it's like you're getting baptized, the water's cleansing. And so I just said to Jesus, I'm like, if you could maybe help me out next time I have a shower. And this was around noon that day, and I got home, it was about 7:30 at night, and I completely forgot about what I said. And the next thing I know, I'm in the shower, and this warm energy just comes over me. And I was like, what the heck was that? And then another warm energy. And the next thing I know, I'm just consumed with unconditional love. And this 5 foot tall, clear soul being comes up to me. And the next thing you know, I'm having all these telepathic messages and downloads. And it was the soul of Jesus, who I like to refer to as Yeshua now, but everyone knows him as Jesus. But, and just all this unconditional love came over me, and he told me things like, he said, it may have been Archangel Michael that day that saved you in your garage, but it was I who sent him. And he told me that love was the key. And I know this sounds like I'm going off topic here, but as soon as I got out of that shower, I was just like, I couldn't stop swearing. I was like, holy shit, right? But I was just over consumed with unconditional love. And I walked downstairs to where my dad was, and I was just had my hands on my head, and I was like, holy yes, right? My dad's like, what's wrong? What's going on? Why are you swearing? And I was like, I don't know what you're going to think about this, but I just had a visitation from the soul of Jesus in your shower. And he's like, well, if you just had a visitation from the soul of Jesus, then stop swearing. And I was just like, no, you don't understand. I'm just like, I was so unconditional love to the fullest. And I got to see through the eyes of Jesus, like everyone in my past that had harmed me, I seen them as just, characters that were there to help me grow and learn and evolve. And, all these things that I've experienced, it makes it hard to relate to people at times. It's hard to have surface, talks that don't really mean much. And I really have just kind of been in hermit mode. I do my TikTok. I just reached 50,000 subscribers on that. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That's
just try to
amazing.
share my message.
That's great. I didn't realize you'd gotten so big on there. Let me see if let me find another question here for you. Wait, that's not it. What do people who angels and Jesus don't appear for or do? I don't understand that question.
Okay, I can, you know what? I think I can say something that might relate to that. So in my book, because I often get asked by people who have lost people to ending their life, like, why didn't an angel come to them? And one of the things I say in my book is, when I first started sharing my message, because I was pretty much an introvert my whole life, and because of being bullied and the things that I went through, reaching out and speaking publicly on social media and even writing my book and even sharing my art was not something that came easy to me. But it was through people that were around me that started to end their lives that I was like, okay, I have to share my message on social media, because what if I can save one or two lives out there? And one of the questions that I often get is, why did an angel not appear to this person? And what I say in my book is, to anyone that hears my story, please, if you're on the fence about ending your life, please don't think that if you go ahead and do it and an angel doesn't appear, that your life was not worth saving. What I've basically been shown was that, my soul's not from around here. I'm from a completely different universe. And, I had an Akashic Records reading done by a fabulous woman on Instagram, and I pinned it on my TikTok and my YouTube or whatever, but it's my Akashic Records reading where it talks about like death spells that have been done against me, and some woman tried to poison me, and Men in Black, and she goes into detail about where my soul is from, and she said that I'm basically an Oraphim, which is like an archangel that works in different universes, whereas archangels work in our universe. So I was shown that I'm not from around here. So I had a special calling to come here. I was personally asked by Archangel Michael to come here to help create a bridge from a higher vibrational plane into this one. And so I had a very big mission, as well as, they wanted me to be around so that hopefully that answers the question to some degree.
All right, let me catch another one here. Which one should I do? Oh. What's your background, culture, and are there any psychics in your family?
I was born and raised in BC, British Columbia, Canada. And so, I'm Canadian. My parents are Canadian, but I have a lot of Eastern European in my background. My last name is Polish, but I have a lot of German in my DNA. So that's interesting, because I've often asked myself that, like, I wonder, but for me, I grew up in a small family and all my relatives were kind of at a distance. So I don't, of course I've interacted with some of my relatives, but I don't know them to, I don't know them that well. So to say if there's psychics in my family history, not that I'm aware of. Oh, I think I lost
That's
your
mine. It's all
voice.
right.
Oh.
It's okay. It's my fault. I have a
There we
mute
go.
button. I forgot to press
You're
it.
back.
What did Archangel Michael look like?
Okay, so when Archangel Michael appeared to me in the garage, I did not see his true form. However, so that happened in 2014 on July 13th, right? And for the next year, nothing. Like, I was sitting there and I'm like, where'd you go, Archangel Michael? I'm like, Jesus, I'm like, why was the only time you're willing to come to me? It was right before I was about to do that in my garage. And at the time in 2015, I'd started working with this shaman that was telling me about how when you use psychedelic mushrooms, you can use it with the intent to open up your heart. And so I, for the first time in my life at the age of 35, started, using mushrooms with the shaman, and eventually I got comfortable with it. And I was on YouTube and I came across this guy that was talking about mushrooms, and he said, the number one thing to remember when you're using psychedelic mushrooms is your intention. What do you want to happen? And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, that's it. I'm like, that's what I'll do. I'm going to have a mushroom ceremony in my garage, and I'm going to invite Archangel Michael. Now, it's funny because I brought it down here. This large quartz crystal that I had it in my meditation area when I did my mushroom ceremony, right? And I planned it on like a Monday or Tuesday, and I planned on doing it on the Friday. And so about 45 minutes into my meditation, I had my eyes closed and I was just feeling unconditional love. I was feeling great. And once again, I hear you should open up your eyes. Well, I had a log in front of me with this sitting right on it. And when I opened up my eyes, Archangel Michael from head to toe was glowing white, his whole body in this crystal. And I could see, like, it was just magnificent. His hair was just like, the first thing I thought when I saw his hair was Fabio, like just crazy angelic hair, and I got the impression that it went down behind him. And the next thing that stood out was his wings. Like it almost felt like his wings were a separate entity. They were just magical, and they extended over his head. They were massive and went below his feet. And he was kind of doing like a reverse moonwalk, but obviously not moving anywhere because he was in the crystal. And he had a sword in his left hand and a round shield in his right hand. And as I was looking at this, I'm staring at it, I rubbed my eyes and I'm like, am I actually seeing this? And this pulse wave came from that crystal and hit my ears. And it was so powerful that I actually thought my eardrums burst. And the strange thing is, I could feel them like physically, like energetically, like shaking. And so I said to myself, I'm like, holy cow, okay, I won't question if I'm seeing that again. And just as I said that, his wings started to fold around him. And as soon as his wings got all the way around him, I collapsed in ecstasy. This energy just came from him, and my chest landed into my knees, and my hands were on the ground, and my head was on my knees. And I was just like, it was like a bliss overload. And I can't honestly tell you how much time went by. I sit up, and he's back to his marching pose. He closed his wings again, and the same thing happened. This happened 3 times until I opened up my eyes again. He was gone. But the one thing that really surprised me was how muscular he looked. Like, in all the times I ever, like, a lot of people will say, oh, angels come to you in the form you would depict them in. First of all, Archangel Michael looked nothing like what I thought. He looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger that worked out every single day and, just did a cycle or something. Like, he was massive. And I had always seen him in statues as more of like a lean kind of being with little wings sticking out, and his wings were just massive. And what I did when I did some research, I was told that anytime an angel folds its wings in front of you, what it's actually doing is sending Christ consciousness energy to you. And after what I experienced 3 times in a row, I couldn't argue with that. But he's a very, very beautiful looking individual.
What comes to my mind is the crystal acted as if some sort of medium to have Archangel Michael come through like as a hologram.
Right. I guess because the crystal is high vibe and very powerful, it just, yeah, that was the last thing in the world I was expecting. I didn't know what to expect. I just put the crystal there with I trimmed my palm tree earlier. I put some palm leaves down, lit some candles, and that's what showed up. It was quite amazing, actually.
Let's check another question here. Let's see. How have you come to believe that Jesus is okay with you doing shamanism and Reiki?
Well, that's a beautiful question, because I get asked that a lot. A lot of people seem to think that Reiki and energy healing is somehow like negative. And you have to ask yourself, when Jesus or Yeshua was a human being walking this earth, how do you think he healed people? He transferred energy. He showed me, I seen an image. He showed me how to heal one time. And he showed me to just put out my hands like this and picture golden Christ consciousness energy coming out of it. Call it whatever you want. I don't know if that's not specifically Reiki, whatever. But when Jesus was down here, he transferred energy into people. So to say that, energy healing is taboo, well, that's how Jesus did it. So, that's kind of, my thing. And crystals are they are high vibrating objects, right? And they help us connect. I've been shown, like, yes, we can connect and we can pray, but we can also do things in the physical, like, sage our area and light candles that helps these beings come in as well. So hopefully that answered the question.
All right, let's take another one. Can you share what Jesus looked like?
So here's the thing. I believe that nobody has really seen what Jesus looks like. I've had 2 really intense visitations from him, like the one I told you in the shower. And I also had an out-of-body experience on Third Beach on April 8th, 2021, where I left my body and I went in front of the soul of Jesus, who was standing next to the soul of the Son. And, the time in my shower, he was a clear being. The time that I left my body and went in front of his presence on Third Beach, he was a bright white light being. The reason why I tell people that I feel that Jesus was most likely black is because before all my experiences, I had a situation that I didn't know what to think of. And I was basically in a meditation in my garage. It was summertime. It was hot. I had bare feet. They were on the ground. And after, it was usually 45 minutes, half an hour or an hour, I opened up my eyes and I was staring at my feet. And they were like, you can see what color I am. These were like dark skinned feet. And I was like, what the F? I'm like, these are not my feet. And I heard, these are Jesus's feet. And so when I take that into consideration, as well as when his soul came to me in my shower, I got the impression he was about 5'1", 5'2". So for me, Jesus, or Yeshua, I'm told Yeshua is a more direct name than Jesus is, but I get the impression that he was, a black individual, about 5'2", maybe in height. But as far as he looks, I really don't know.
Okay. Well, I think you might have already answered this one, so I'll let that one go by. All right. Okay. So you have your new book out. What is the name of it again?
Called Finding Me by Ashley Samborski, available on Amazon.
On Amazon.
Ebook, softcover, hardcover.
Are you going to make an audio version?
Well, it's something to look into, I guess. I could check that out, maybe.
Do you have a website?
I do. It's ashleysamborski.com, but it's that's for my sculptures.
Now, you also have a YouTube channel, right?
I do. I think, it's interesting because I started my YouTube channel in 2017 and I have about 1,000 followers. And my TikTok, I started just a few years ago and I have 50,000. When, the thing that hit the economy in 2020 first came out, I started voicing my opinion and I made a video titled Jesus is my vaccine. And ever since then, my videos, I'll put out my video on TikTok and it'll get anywhere from, it's crazy because some of my videos have 1,000 views and some of them have 700,000 views. So you don't really know what's going to happen when you put it out there. But I'll put the same video on YouTube and I'll get like 20 views or, 50 views. So I don't know if there's some kind of, thing going on behind the scenes there.
Well, but you have different audiences, and I'm assuming also they're a completely different platform, so their algorithms work different than, different
true.
from each other. Well, besides the book, what else do you got going on that you want people to know about?
You know what? That book has really consumed the last 3 years of my life. It was like every day for 10 hours just working on it. And even, it got released on April 8th. We're still making live edits. And this has been, my life since I quit my job. And, I do the art for fun. I have the biggest sale on now that's ever been. And, I make TikTok and YouTube videos and that kind of stuff. So that seems to be taking up a lot of my time right now.
All right. Well, someone I think posted in the comments earlier that when I had you on, it was 2021. Wow, I think that's what somebody posted. So that's been about 3 years. So that's great.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like that for me. It just seems kind of like yesterday.
I agree.
It's weird how time flies.
It's going faster.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. It's great catching up with you again, brother. I wish you massive success with your book and whatever you're doing.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of your show and I love your work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Ashley.
Absolutely.
Take care, brother. Have a great rest of your
evening. All right,
evening.
you too.
All right.
Fantastic. Bye-bye. Bye.
And that was Ashley. So that was great catching up with him. Two previous guests, and it's kind of nice that I'm able to have them on, and we at the number of subscribers now where probably many of you may have never seen these guests before, especially Ashley, since he was about 3 years ago. So before we finish up here, I want to tell you what's coming up this week. So let me just pull up my calendar. As I said previously, tomorrow's guest is John Novello. He is a Grammy award-winning pianist. He's played with people like Donna Summer and other big-time musicians. He had an experience where he connected with his wife on the other side. He's really into manifesting, and he gave some really interesting information, and I thought it was a great podcast, so I hope you guys watch it and check it out. I had my first NDE with a woman from Afghanistan the other day. She's not living there. She's originally from there, but she's living in Vegas now, so that was a really nice story, and I hope you guys will check that one out. Let's see, I have an NDE coming up, I think with a woman from Europe that I'm supposed to record next week. I have 2 or 3 more NDEs, one on Thursday, one on Friday, one on somebody on, as I say this almost every podcast, in my calendar, I try to add notes with what the guest is going to talk about. And what happens is I get lazy, I guess. I mean, and I don't keep up with it. I try to. I usually do, but sometimes I don't. Or maybe, like I have a guest on Monday. I just wrote the name down, Shane, and I need to really go back and figure out who that guest is. But I should have probably put his last name and what we're going to talk about. If it's an NDE, I can put John Doe NDE. If it's someone who's a UFO experience or something like Andrew that was here earlier, I could put Andrew UFO. But this one I didn't put, so I'm guilty of that. Okay. And I can fix it afterwards. Yes. I already have guests lined up for next Saturday night. One of them is Barbara Gale, and she's an NDEer and other things. So, and she wanted it. I was going to have her to be like a recorded podcast, and she preferred to be here live. She wants to be asked questions by you guys. So that's my first guest ever that preferred to be here on a live show versus a pre-recorded. So I hope you guys all come back next week and check her out. I want to see you as a guest on someone else's podcast. I've already done that. And there's not really much for me to say because I haven't had an NDE. And all I can do is tell you the stories of the guests that have been here. And if you're a regular watcher, you already know the stories. So I'm not giving you really any new information. And someone else asked me again to be a guest. And I get asked pretty often. And I usually try to politely decline. I thank them for the offer. But it's not really, I don't think it'd be that interesting. I think it'd be more interesting to be with me here live. And I know I'm plugging my own memberships, but if you become at least a silver member, once a week, you get to hang out with me. It's not live. It's just with all the other members, and we hang out for an hour. Once a month. We hang out for an hour, and we talk about whatever everybody wants to talk about. And finally, a couple months ago, someone asked about the members, and I said, well, let's do it the first Sunday of every month. And now for the last 2 months, it's getting busier and busier. So if you want to join that, hang out with us. Do we have anything else? Does Mika want to make an appearance before we go? We'll let you guys, Mika wants to say hello before we go. She doesn't have her hair brushed today. Have time. And I probably needs a haircut. She's getting fluffier and fluffier. Her bangs are getting long. They're covering her eyes. But she's here with us. She was just right down here. We put like a little bed down here, and she was hanging out with us, and she's here. And maybe it's almost like she looks like we just woke her up or something. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for coming, hanging out with us. I think we had a great night tonight. Uh-oh, maybe this is not comfortable. All right. So we had a great night tonight. I think we had a great show. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next Saturday. And it was a busy night. I saw we were over 400, so that was great. So again, we had a great night. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you. We love you guys. God bless you and